Welcome back, viewers, to the Stellar Twin Voyagers program. Today, I, Nova A239, will once again guide you through the journey of siblings striving to achieve their colorful dreams. Let us together explore the timeless infinity amidst the oceans of stars. Get ready to be mesmerized by the wonders of the universe and stories full of hope that will inspire us all. Lunch break was over, and grandfather had returned to the field after finishing his storytelling session with his grandchildren. Come on, Cosmo, we should join mom and follow grandfather and dad who are already waiting in the field, said Aster. Okay, big bro, Cosmo replied. They both quickly left their room and met their mother in the kitchen. Are you ready? Their mother asked. Yes, mom, let's go back to the field, said Aster. All right, it's almost 1:30 p.m, let's hurry to the field, said mom. She quickly tidied up the kitchen, took her two sons out of the house, locked the door, and walked to the field. The field was already crowded with many villagers who had arrived earlier. Dad, we're here, said the two shepherd boys as they waved to their father. Dad turned for a moment and said, oh, my sons are here, indeed. Come, let's stand here. Aster and Cosmo, along with mom, walked towards dad, and they conversed with their neighbors. Before long, grandfather returned to open the event. Good afternoon, villagers. All feeling refreshed. All right, let's continue the proceedings. To the female dancers, please accompany the procession. We will walk back to the mountaintop. Then, a line of young women dressed beautifully and carrying their own musical instruments marched ahead of the procession, accompanying other villagers as they walked towards the mountaintop, chanting words of gratitude and praise. Before they knew it, the journey of approximately an hour and a half brought them to the mountaintop. Grandfather and the village elders then sought blessings from the earth goddess for the coming year, and the harvest coffers and earth goddess statue were once again paraded down the mountain by the adult men. Finally, they managed to return to the field before sunset. Now, this blessed harvest will be distributed to all the families gathered here, said grandfather, take your share, and I pray that all blessings and abundance will always be with us. The villagers eagerly lined up to receive their portion of the blessed harvest. You all wait here, let dad handle it, dad said to mom and their two sons. Dad hurried towards the line and took their family's share. Here it is, dad got it for us, now we just wait for all the villagers to get theirs, and we'll soon head home, dad said. The two boys nodded as they observed the festivity in the field. Finally, the distribution of the blessed harvest came to an end. Grandfather then concluded the celebration. All right, thus we have performed the harvest festival to thank the earth goddess who has kept and protected us all. May her blessings always accompany us from year to year. I now close this event. Thank you for the enthusiasm, villagers. Please disperse in an orderly manner and return to your homes. The villagers gave a hearty applause, then one by one began to leave the field. Grandpa walked towards them and said, let's head home now. It's getting dark. Today's celebration was enjoyable, wasn't it? Yes, Grandpa, it was fun, replied Cosmo. All right, let's walk back home now, said Dad. The two shepherd boys chatted along the way. Suddenly, Aster shouted, the sheep. What's wrong, bro? Asked Cosmo. We haven't taken our sheep out to graze for the evening. Grandpa, Dad, Mom, we'll go to the sheep pen first. We'll be back home soon after grazing the sheep, said Aster. All right, be careful, okay. It's getting dark. Don't stay out too long, said Mom. Okay, Mom, said the two boys as they headed towards their sheep pen and took their sheep out to graze. After the sheep grazed contentedly and drank water, Aster and Cosmo quickly herded them back into the sheep pen and locked the gate. They both then hurried back home. Grandpa, Dad, Mom, we're back, said the two boys. Oh, welcome back. Come, change your clothes and clean yourselves up in the backyard, then join us promptly for dinner, said Mom as she placed the dinner dishes on the table one by one. Okay, Mom, said Aster and Cosmo, then they quickly ran to their rooms to change clothes, took a quick shower, and joined their grandpa and parents. They all sat down together at the dining table. Mom cooked a lot today, you must all be tired after a day of celebrations, let's enjoy dinner together, said Mom. Wow, smoked meat, my favorite. Bon appetit, exclaimed Cosmo enthusiastically. Bon appetit, Grandpa, Dad, Mom, said Aster. The family enjoyed their dinner happily, exchanging stories and laughter. After dinner, Dad got up from his seat and said, I'm going to bed now. Feeling a bit sleepy today. Good night, Dad. Good night, dear. Good night to both my sons. Good night, they all replied. Aster and Cosmo helped their mom clear the dining table and dishes, while Grandpa relaxed in the front yard, gazing at the night sky and puffing on his pipe. After finishing helping their mom, Aster and Cosmo quickly joined their grandpa. Seeing his grandsons arrive, Grandpa immediately said with a smile, let's go to your room. Grandpa will tell you stories there. Would you like to hear about the moon, Saturn, and other interesting facts today? Yes, Grandpa, replied his grandsons eagerly. All right then, sit on your beds. Grandpa will start telling the story. First, Grandpa will explain about the supermoon that he promised earlier. Supermoons are often named based on the month they occur and sometimes by culture or specific events. There are several famous supermoon names. First, the super snow moon in February. Its color is usually white or silvery. This name comes from the heavy snowfall in February. Then there's the super worm moon in March, with a color of white or yellowish. It's named because the ground begins to thaw and earthworms start to emerge. Also in April, there's the super pink moon. Its color is typically white or slightly yellowish, though its name doesn't refer to its actual color. It's named after the pink phlox flowers that bloom widely in North America during this month. The super flower moon in May is white or yellowish. This name reflects the blooming of spring flowers. Next, the super strawberry moon in June, which is white or slightly yellowish. Named by the Algonquin tribe due to the strawberry harvesting season. The super buck moon in July. The supermoon's color is white or yellowish. It's named because male deer bucks typically start growing their antlers in this month. Lastly, there's the super sturgeon moon in August. Its color is white or yellowish. It's named after the large sturgeon fish in the Great Lakes and Lake Champlain that are more easily caught during this month. However, this can become a blood red color known as the super blood moon. A red supermoon can indeed occur, but it's usually associated with a total lunar eclipse rather than just the moon's perigee. A supermoon is when the moon is at its closest point to Earth in its orbit perigee and is full or nearly full. This makes the moon appear larger and brighter than usual. However, a red supermoon doesn't occur because of the supermoon itself but rather because of a total lunar eclipse happening coincidentally when the moon is near perigee. During a total lunar eclipse, the moon enters the Earth's shadow and only the light passing through Earth's atmosphere reaches the moon. Earth's atmosphere scatters blue and green light more effectively than red light, leaving only red light to reach the moon's surface, giving it the appearance of a red moon known as a blood moon. So, a supermoon coinciding with a total lunar eclipse results in a phenomenon known as a super blood moon. Some examples of this phenomenon include the super blood moon on September 28, 2015, and the super blood moon on January 31, 2018. Since earlier Grandpa only talked about the supermoon in August, let's continue briefly with the names of supermoons in other months. the super harvest moon in September, the super hunter's moon in October, the super beaver moon in November, and the super cold moon in December. Next, Grandpa wants to discuss how Eratosthenes measured the circumference of the Earth and determined its radius in ancient times for today's story. So, in ancient times, there was a Greek astronomer and mathematician named Eratosthenes, who was the first known person to successfully measure the Earth's circumference quite accurately. His measurement was conducted around 240 BC using a simple yet clever method that utilized basic principles of geometry and observations of the sun's shadow. This is what Grandpa will tell you about today. Eratosthenes learned from historical records that in the city of Sin, now Aswan, Egypt, at noon during the summer solstice around June 21st, the sun was directly overhead. This was marked by the absence of a shadow at the bottom of a very deep well in Sin, indicating that the sunlight was falling straight down. Meanwhile, Eratosthenes lived in Alexandria, which is located about 800 kilometers north of Sin. On the same summer solstice, he observed that in Alexandria, vertical objects such as sticks or obelisks cast shadows. This meant that the sun was not directly overhead in Alexandria at the same time. Eratosthenes then measured the angle of the shadow in Alexandria at the same time, noon on the summer solstice. He found that the shadow of a vertical stick in Alexandria made an angle of about 7.2 degrees with the vertical. This angle is equivalent to 1/50th of a full circle, 360 degrees. Eratosthenes then understood that because the Earth is spherical, this difference in shadow angles was related to the curvature of the Earth's surface. The 7.2 degree angle between Alexandria and Sin meant that the distance between the two cities was 1/50th of the Earth's circumference. Eratosthenes estimated the distance between Sin and Alexandria to be about 5,000 stadia. It's important to note that the size of a stadium varied, but for this context, let's assume it is 157.5 meters per stadium, although there are some variations in historical interpretations. Using the geometry of a circle, Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth with a certain equation and obtained a result of about 39,375 kilometers. The actual circumference of the Earth based on modern measurements is approximately 40,075 kilometers, so Eratosthenes' calculation was quite accurate with today's estimates. After determining the circumference of the Earth, the diameter of the Earth could be calculated using the formula for the circumference of a circle, resulting in an approximation of 12,526 kilometers. The modern estimate for the diameter of the Earth is around 12,742 kilometers, showing that Eratosthenes' calculation was very close to the actual value. By employing simple geometric principles and careful observations, Eratosthenes successfully measured the circumference and diameter of the Earth with remarkable accuracy for his time. This method demonstrates how clever and innovative ancient scientists were in tackling major challenges with limited tools and knowledge. Grandpa also hopes that you will grow up to be smart individuals like Eratosthenes. Next, Grandpa wants to tell you about the layered appearance of Saturn's rings. Saturn is famous for its spectacular ring system, consisting of various rings and gaps between them. First, there is the D ring, the dirty ring. This ring is the closest to Saturn, located near the planet's atmosphere. Its brown color is due to darker dust and materials. Next is the C ring, the crepe ring. This ring lies between the B ring and Saturn's atmosphere. The C ring is thinner and less dense compared to the B inner rings, consisting of finer particles. Moving on, there's the Cassini division, a wide gap visible between the A ring and the B ring. The Cassini division is separated by the gravitational influence of the moon Mimas, which creates orbital resonances that clear this area of ring particles. Next, the B ring, the big ring, is a bright and thick ring located outside the Cassini division. It consists of large and varied sized ice particles. The B ring is the brightest and densest of all the main rings. Following that is the A ring, the outermost ring. This ring is thinner and brighter than the B ring. Located outside the B ring, it is separated from the F ring by a small gap called the Encke gap. The Encke gap itself is one of the divisions visible within the A ring, named after its discoverer, Johann Encke. This gap is caused by the small moon Pan, which orbits within it, clearing ring particles from its path. The A ring also features the Keeler gap, caused by another small moon, Daphnis. The Keeler gap is smaller than the Encke gap but is significant in Saturn's ring dynamics. Then there is the F ring, the faint ring. This ring is very thin and located outside the A ring. The F ring has a more complex and dynamic structure, consisting of intertwining ice particles often influenced by shepherd moons like Pandora and Prometheus. Next is the G ring, the gossamer ring. This ring is extremely thin and located outside the F ring. The G ring is also known as the gossamer ring, due to its thin and wide appearance. The source of ice particles in the G ring may be associated with small moons like Aegeon. Lastly, there's the E ring, the Enceladus ring, located within the orbit of the moon Enceladus. This ring consists of ice particles generated by geysers on Enceladus' surface. The E ring is the widest and most dispersed of all Saturn's rings but is extremely thin and nearly invisible from Earth. Saturn's rings are believed to have formed from debris left over after the planet's formation or from moons shattered by Saturn's tidal forces. There are several hypotheses about the origin of the rings, one of which suggests they may have originated from a moon that was too close to Saturn and broke apart due to strong gravitational forces. There are also several interesting gaps or ringlets within Saturn's rings. First, there is the Colombo gap in the C ring, named after Giuseppe Bepi Colombo. Then, the Titan ringlet, also within the C ring, named after the moon Titan. The Maxwell gap and Maxwell ringlet in the C ring are named after James Clerk Maxwell. Next, the Bond gap named after William Cranch Bond and George Phillips Bond. Then, the Huygens gap and Huygens ringlet in the Cassini division named after Christian Huygens. Finally, the Encke gap and Keeler gap in the A ring, named after Johann Encke and James Keeler, respectively. Each ring that Grandpa explained has its own unique characteristics, influenced by interactions with Saturn's satellites and orbital resonances that create gaps and complex structures within them. Next, Grandpa wants to explain something interesting about Jupiter. But Grandpa is thirsty, so Grandpa will have a drink first, said Grandpa. His two grandchildren waited for their grandpa to have his drink, and shortly after, Grandpa continued. Now Grandpa will explain about the Great Red Spot on Jupiter. The Great Red Spot is an iconic feature in Jupiter's atmosphere that has been observed for centuries. Unlike regular storms, the Great Red Spot seems to endure long periods due to unique dynamics in Jupiter's atmosphere that are not fully understood. The Great Red Spot itself is very large, with a diameter greater than that of Earth, and is estimated to have significant vertical depth. This allows it to create color contrasts visible from afar. The red color visible is likely caused by complex compounds formed within the atmosphere, possibly involving phosphorus or sulfur compounds. Interactions between sunlight, the atmosphere, and chemicals within it can create these distinctive colors. Despite appearing as a storm, the Great Red Spot has a more stable structure and does not move like typical storms. This stability might be due to mechanisms not fully understood that maintain this storm pattern on a very large scale. If you observe Jupiter closely, it appears striated. The colors in its atmosphere are primarily due to a mixture of different gases and complex airflow patterns. Although not visibly layered like other planets, Jupiter has distinct belts and zones in its atmosphere. These zones have different colors due to varying gas compositions, such as ammonia and methane. Changes in Jupiter's atmosphere's color may also be caused by small particles dispersed within it, including particles from Jupiter's moons that affect light reflection. How about that? Fascinating, isn't it? Wow, that's really interesting, Grandpa, said the grandchildren. Absolutely, Grandpa replied, pinching his grandchildren's cheeks affectionately. Our solar system and the universe are full of amazing things. Grandpa will slowly tell you more on other days. For today, let's stop here. Grandpa is tired and wants to rest early. Good night, my grandchildren. Good night, Grandpa, said the grandchildren, crawling under their blankets. Grandpa turned off the bedroom light, and our two young shepherds quickly fell asleep in their beautiful dreams. That concludes today's episode of the Stellar Twin Voyagers. Fun, wasn't it? Would you like to hear more amazing tales from the adventures of our young shepherds writing their stories amidst millions of pearls in the night sky? Therefore, stay with us on this program, and we'll meet again in the next episode. In short, I'm Nova A239, very happy to share stories with you today.